Hello everyone, I am back with another dendritic creation, creation with dendrites. As I often do, I am repurposing a previous canvas, previously poured canvas. It was covered in Mod Podge and it had been hanging in my living room for months. And it just, again, wasn't one of my favorites. And I really wanted to try this particular design. And so I was willing to kind of sacrifice it. I did sand the surface with an 80 grit sanding block, which is what I normally do if I'm going to sand down a coating of resin. But I will find out shortly that sanding Mod Podge may or may not work. So I went ahead and put down my push pins. I will get a better camera angle shortly. This is obviously sped up, but when I went to clean the surface with isopropyl alcohol and a coffee filter, it was very sticky. So it was like the Mod Podge just kind of gummed up. It wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't very easy to clean. But I did use a coffee filter, so I didn't get any lint in the canvas. So I'm using my typical white pouring paint that I've mixed myself. It's just 1 part acrylic white paint. This particular brand I just bought from Target, and 4 parts Floetrol and approximately 1 part water. I think I had a total of 6.5 ounces, and it was not enough. But I was determined to make it work by swirling it around and tilting the canvas without losing too much paint off the sides, instead of mixing up a new batch. I also, historically, if I'm going to repurpose a canvas, I will spray paint it first. But I was just too impatient. I was so excited to try this new design because I finally, as I showed in my last video, figured out how to make very large dendrites. And instead of doing a cell design, like a circular design, I wanted to try a sort of linear design. And I was kind of going for a coral reef. It didn't exactly work out that way, but I am still showing you the creation because I learned a lot. And I'm still fairly happy with the result. I'll talk about the color choices shortly. But yeah, I got the white paint to spread out perfectly fine. Kind of clean things up. So I'm starting with orange acrylic ink. My brain wants to say alcohol ink, but it is not. It is acrylic ink. And I'm just going in the center. And then this is a royal blue. And that's kind of where I made my first mistake. I forgot about the color wheel. And orange and blue do not mix well together. They make brown, and I will be reminded of that shortly in this video. That next color there is a bright green. And I'm using a fairly significant amount of acrylic ink. You'll see it's using almost a whole dropper full. That's a yellow. And I know this doesn't look like much now, but just wait. I believe that is teal. And then that was a purple. And then here I'm back to the same orange that I started with. And again, the orange and the purple was not the smartest idea. I was just too excited. Forgive me. Back to more of the blue, like a royal blue. All right, and then this is silicone oil. And I started doing drops, but then I realized I could just do a thin line. And so that's what I did, was a thin stream of the silicone oil down the center. And then similarly, a thin stream of 91% isopropyl alcohol using a pipette that looks colored. It's just stained from a previous project, but I'm using pure 91% isopropyl alcohol, nothing added. And I went down and back just because I knew I had a lot of ink under there and I knew I wanted it to move significantly. And we're tilting. This is something I did not realize that you could do. I thought for sure this would ruin the dendrite behavior, the reaction that you get, but that is not the case. So I tilt in both directions vertically. And the inspiration was coral reef. I knew putting this in the center and not at the very bottom of the canvas. I'm not trying to make it look exactly like one, but that's the inspiration. And here's where I start to realize, some of the colors are mixing and making this brown color. It's not the worst thing in the world. The other colors are still really pretty. And then they actually kind of ended up looking like trees, brown trees. So it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad enough for me to stop and start over. So dripping back down in the bottom middle section, looks like a cactus, doesn't it? And I very well could have stopped here because that's pretty darn cool on its own. But I'm just standing, staring, going, I've seen someone else on YouTube, and I'll link her channel in the description, mix colors. So I thought, okay, let's add some yellow on top of the orange and some of that brown mixture. Adding some more blue. Continuing with the blue on top of that bright green. I thought that would make a cool combination. And then going back and adding bright green on top of the blue. Adding yellow on top of the greenish blue section. And I was really trying to figure out what could I put on top of the brown to help it out. And I added orange. I don't think that helped. And then yellow on top of the blue there at the end. Going back in with a thin stream of silicone oil. And even though I leveled the canvas, I promise you I did, it did not stay level. It's my table. I swear the legs move on me. It's a very, very old table. And like any movement on the top of the table makes the legs start to buckle. And, you know, it didn't ruin anything, but it bothered me as I got further into this creation. I had to refill my little alcohol cup. And then we're just adding a nice stream of the alcohol down the middle. Beautiful colors. I think I just did one stream. Yep. And we're back to tilting. And then this stream, if you will follow the pattern of the dendrites that are already there. Some new ones will form, but for the most part, we're basically just expanding the existing ones. All right, and here I decided to add more yellow to that first orange section. A little more yellow in the middle, just to brighten things up. And you can tell the ink kind of sinks to the bottom, but once you add the oil and the alcohol, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. And it looks like I added purple. I must have added a little bit of purple in that section earlier, and I'm just trying to bring the purple back to life. And I could tell that because my canvas was no longer level, it was running, the ink in the middle was running to the one side. So just to let it kind of start running back the other way, I just flipped the canvas around. And notice I'm adding alcohol, and I did not add the oil between the ink and the alcohol. That was intentional. I thought, there must be enough oil on here. I shouldn't have to add any more. But notice that sort of section that it created in the middle. It didn't ruin anything, but it was just a reminder that next time I do this, I do need to add a fresh layer of oil each time. I was able to blend that middle section back together. And so I just tilted until the longest dendrite almost reached the end of the canvas. I didn't want them to start pouring off the edges. At least not for this creation. Now this part I sped up to 5 times the speed because I continue to try and get the canvas level, meanwhile tilting the ink that I can tell is running to the left side of our screen. So I keep going back and forth to my drawer to get more popsicle sticks, and I start cracking them in half and putting one half under each push pin, and it's like I'm playing Jenga over there, and it just wasn't working. I didn't have any space on any of my other tables or shelves to move this to. This was going to become my drying station, so I knew I had to get it level before I could walk away from it. So I'm just using my popsicle stick and touching up the white. I had a little bit of white left over in my cup. Not much. But just covering the kind of obvious spots that we're showing. But I was pleasantly surprised with the coverage of this white paint on the canvas because I did not spray paint it, like I said. And there are probably some parts on the edges that are still showing the underneath. At this point, I was just concerned with the top being completely covered with the white. And so here we are for our close-up. These are just the coolest things. Looks like coral, looks like cacti, looks like trees. I see a Venus flytrap in there. Do you see it? Just love it. Yes, there's some brown, but it's not, to me, it doesn't ruin the whole painting just because it's only part of it. I just love it. So cool, so different. And this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.